who owns the company, the natural person, not legal person.
So a natural person is you and me, human.
Yeah.
A legal person can be an organization, it can be a company, whatever it is.
Once you have registered the company, you're supposed to lodge the list of the beneficial owners with the BRS within 30 days of registration. Now, if you fail to comply with this, you will be liable for a fine of up to how much? Not exceeding how much?
500,000.
Yeah.
Half a meter.
Imagine
kupeana two list.
How sure are we that the names of those individuals will remain safe?
Confidential.
Yeah, and confidential in the Registrar of Companies.
KRA or ESCC, KRA sana sana, or ESCC or DCI are looking for you.
They will find you.
BRS watapeana list. Watapeana list.
They'll be like, hi.
Hi.
Chicken.
Hi guys, welcome to the rundown. My name is Nihala Barasa.
And I'm Danunz Yuko.
And today we want to teach you about beneficial ownership and to tell you how a company gets deleted from the company's registry. But before that, there's 263 of you who have subscribed to our YouTube channel.
Woo! Thank you guys. We really appreciate the love. Please share our link for YouTube, Spotify, and
Apple Podcast.
Yes.
So today, most of this topic will be handled by my beautiful co-host.
Wow.
This was her baby. Do we start from the beneficial ownership or the deletion? The beneficial ownership.
The beneficial ownership.
So probably the first thing that you can tell us is what beneficial ownership means to you. What is beneficial ownership?
So according to the Companies Act, allow me to read the definition from the Companies Act. A beneficial owner is the natural person who ultimately owns or controls a legal person or arrangements, or the natural person on whose behalf a transaction is conducted, and includes those persons whose exercise ultimate effective control over a legal person or arrangement. Towards the end of October, there was a notice that came from the Business Registration Service that asked companies, that's limited liability companies and limited liability partnerships, to update their beneficial ownership registry. So basically what the BRS is trying to do is to know who owns the company, the natural person, not legal person. So you'll find companies have different types of structures. So the ones that have a simple structure is where we have maybe, for example, the rundown LLP, and you'll find the ownership is just Ndanu 50%, Nihala 50%. And then now you have with some limited liability companies, they have a complex ownership structure. So you'll find some companies, it's just a list of the shareholders who are natural persons, and you'll find maybe there is one legal person who owns that company. Now that legal person means it's another company that owns that company. So what the BRS want companies to do is to go and do a deep dive of who owns that other company that owns your company. Get their details. So that other company, is it owned by Ndanu and Mihala? Get that registry. Get that full list of those members and then file it with the BRS by 30th of November. So they give the deadline for limited liability companies by 30th of November, but for LLPs, there's no timeline as yet. I think for LLPs, there might not be a big problem as much as with the limited liability companies, because a lot of times for LLPs, it's just a few partners who have come together and formed an LLP. But with limited liability companies, you'll find this company is owned by another company that is owned by another company. Yes. And part of the reason why the BRS is trying to do this is, you remember earlier in the year, Kenya was grey-listed by the Financial Action Task Force, that's FATF in short, and part of the actions that the country is trying to do to ensure that we are delisted from that list is to ensure that we know who owns all these companies, so that the companies are not used as conduits for corruption, fraud, and money laundering.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was comprehensive. That was very comprehensive. And I like that you distinguished for us a natural person and a legal person.
Yes.
So a legal person is it doesn't have to be a living thing. Let me just say a living thing. So a natural person is you and me, human.
Yeah.
A legal person can be an organization, it can be a company, whatever it is. So that's the difference. So for you to be a beneficial owner, you have to be a natural person.
Yes.
It's one of the things. And maybe to try and bring it closer to home, let me try and explain what beneficial ownership is in terms of maybe a car. Let's say I own a car.
Yes.
And I sell that car to you, Ndanu. And I sell the car to you, but the transfer process is not complete. And then you get an accident with that car. And you pay insurance for that car, you service it, everything, you do it.
Yeah.
So I will be the registered owner of the car, but you will be the beneficial owner because you exercise control and exclusive use of that car. Yeah. So a beneficial owner of a company need not be a shareholder.
Yes.
It can be someone who has some sort of control, who exercises some sort of control over a company. But for me, the easiest way to grasp it was through like the car issue.
Yes.
So when you sometimes you'll find in cases that people are sued for traffic accidents and for injuries resulting from traffic accidents, you'll have two people, the registered owner of the car and maybe the person that either was driving it or the person who it was sold to. So the person that the car was sold to, they buy their own insurance probably in their own name. They service the car, they have exclusive use. If maybe it's an Uber driver, they use that car for Uber and to benefit from it. That is the beneficial owner. But the registered owner, NTSA will still say, Mihala is the registered owner of the vehicle. Yeah. So that's what it means.
So in the same section, section 93A of the Companies Act, it requires that companies should keep a register of all their beneficial owners. Now, as we began the episode, we defined who a beneficial owner is. And as you're registering a company, once you have registered the company, you're supposed to lodge the list of the beneficial owners with the BRS within 30 days of registration. Then for listed companies, they should lodge the list of beneficial owners, or if they make an amendment, within 14 days. Now, if you fail to comply with this, you will be liable for a fine of up to how much? Not exceeding how much?
500,000.
Yeah.
Half a meter.
Imagine
kupeana tu list.
Imagine.
List. Hey, nika kupeana list ya noisemakers alafu pewi.
Imagine.
List tu 500k.
Teacher kuja kuambia tupe list ya noisemakers ukatae alafu upigwe.
Nataka kitu.
Yes. So if a company or any of its officers is convicted under this section, if you do not file this list of beneficial owners
or update within 14
days. Yes. Each officer who is in default will commit an offense on each day on which they fail to file. So for example, if you are supposed to have filed by 30th
of November.
Yes. So starting from 1st, they start counting the days from there. And you'll be liable for a fine, also not exceeding 500,000 for that failure. So now, besides the company being liable, even you as the officer who is supposed to have filed that list, you'll also be liable for a fine.
Okay.
Yes.
Munasikia? Make sure you file your list of beneficial owners. And maybe something that you might have left out is currently, when you're registering a company, listing the beneficial owners is one of the mandatory requirements.
Yes.
So you have to have that when you're registering a company, which actually might save a lot of companies the 500k.
Yes.
But when this regulation first came into effect in around 2021, and they were told about the 500,000, a lot of companies rushed to comply because nobody wanted to be fined the 500,000. But the BRS also reported that one of the things that they were really struggling with is transparency. because people did not want to look like I own too much in a certain company.
Yes.
So some of them were nominating people. Like it's still a whole murky thing, but it is important that you file your list of beneficial owners with the company's registry.
Yeah.
When you again look at the criteria of who is a beneficial owner, we already say they have to be a natural person.
Yes.
So it's ni mtu mwenye akona ID. Tuseme tu lazima kuwe na ID. That is the easiest way to put it. It has to be a natural person. And then the next of the criteria is this natural person controls at least 10% of the issued shares, either directly or indirectly. So you can have 10% of the shares allotted to you, or the 10% of the shares you've nominated someone to act with them, like to do as you please on your behalf.
Yeah.
And this also goes together with voting. 10% of the voting rights in a company, either yourself directly or indirectly through a nominated proxy. The third one would be you have the right to directly or indirectly influence the decision to appoint or remove a director.
Okay.
So if you can influence that decision in a company, then you should be listed as a beneficial owner. And the last criteria simply is you hold significant power or a significant sway in how decisions are made in the company. So you should be listed as a beneficial owner. This can be financial control, it can be corporate governance control, it can be making of major decision. All these things then mean you should be listed as a beneficial owner. Yes. So maybe we can go to why is it important for companies to list their beneficial owners with the BRS.
So part of the reason why you need to list the beneficial owners for the company is to avoid having your company being used as a conduit for money laundering activities or the financing of terrorism. So as I had mentioned as we started the episode, part of the reason why the Business Registration Service is pushing for companies to declare their beneficial owners is for them to be compliant with the Proceeds of Crime and Anti-Money Laundering Act. So there was an amendment to the Act that was done in 2023, which is to also just improve on the controls for money laundering regulations in Kenya. So just a little snippet on the Proceeds of Crime and Anti-Money Laundering Act. The Act also has its definitions on beneficial ownership. So the first thing is, in terms of beneficial ownership, they refer to the Companies Act. So the definition for the Companies Act is also what is used in POCAMLA, in short, which is the Proceeds of Crime and Anti-Money Laundering Act. So basically, they require that every company should keep a list of their beneficial owners. So in Kenya right now, for you to be seen to be compliant, especially now, if you're on the other side, if you're a company that is onboarding another company as your client, you need to collect some documents known as Know Your Customer documents. Or even if you're doing business with a supplier, you also need to know who you're dealing with. So in that process, so if you're dealing with another company, you need to collect their CR12. And that CR12 is what has the list of owners and directors of that company. Now, if you find that that company has a complex ownership structure, as we had mentioned in the beginning of the episode, the complex ownership structure is the one that has a company that owns another company. Now, you also need to find out who owns that other company. Now, with anti-money laundering regulations, they say you take a risk-based approach. So if you're able to identify ownership of up to 10% of a company, then you're safe. Yes, you'll be seen that you're at least trying your best to know who you're dealing with. Yes. So if you're not able to identify everyone, at least identify any natural person that owns at least 10% of that company.
So the other thing that people don't understand about the beneficial owners list, or like what you put in the registrar, it's a confidential document or list that is maintained by the registrar of companies. So you can't just go to the CR12 and see beneficial owners on the face of it. It is a confidential list that the registrar of companies keeps. Now, how do you access the list of beneficial owners? Either through a court order, or if it's like a public entity, say like KRA, DCI, ESCC, PPRA, the Procurement Authority, the Public-Private Partnership Committee, those ones can always request the registrar to give them the list of who the beneficial owners of a company are. And I think it's both a good and a bad thing, because there are some people who genuinely don't want to be known to be owning certain shares in certain companies.
Yeah.
But so this kind of like seals their records.
Yeah.
To put it in simple terms. But it's also a bad thing, because you can be a beneficial owner in like 100 companies and the public does not know. Also, as the public, we are very nosy and we want to know these things. But the registrar you cannot just like walk up.
Why
to
do you have so
and be
much
like,
money? Why do you own so many companies?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's another kind of like tricky part of it. The one thing that I do appreciate, however, though the implementation is not 100%, is that the list of beneficial owners is usually requested for by the Public Procurement and Review Authority. That's what it's called, PPRA.
Yes.
They request for that document from the Registrar of Companies if you're involved in the bidding of a public tender. So they want to know who are the beneficial owners of this company. If you tender for public tenders, let me just call them public tenders. If you are tendering in that process, then the list of beneficial owners will be requested, and if your name is there, then you'll be revealed. Yeah.
Yes. I think even when this public notice came from BRS, one of the key issues that people were bringing is on data protection. Once we file our list of beneficial owners with the BRS, how sure are we that the names of those individuals will remain safe,
Confidential.
yeah, and confidential in the register of companies?
Or if KRA or ESCC, KRA sana sana, or ESCC or DCI are looking for you,
They will find you.
BRS watapeana list. Watapeana list.
They'll be like, hi,
Hi.
Shikeni.
That, but also the other
In what format would you like? Soft copy?
Word, Excel, soft copy, stamped or not stamped.
Bas.
Yeah, so they'll actually reveal the list.
Okay.
The other thing is, as Kenyans, we agree a lot, even with our friends, to be listed in companies without even knowing the implication of it.
Yes.
If you're listed as a beneficial owner of a company, or even just in the CR12 as a proxy or as a representative, you should know. If KRA or DCI is coming to look for maybe fraudulent or anti-money laundering activity in that company, and you're listed in that documentation, you are the one
Yes.
that KRA will come for. You are the one that ESCC will come for. So before someone tells you, let me just list you in my company, do your KYC. Like, no, what is it that I'm getting myself into? Because ultimately, because your name is there, your address is there, your phone number is there, your signature is in that documentation, you're the person that will be liable for crimes that have probably been committed by the person that has nominated you to hold the shares or represent them as the quote-unquote owner of the company or the shareholder.
And I think one of the things that you need to remember, if someone approaches you to be a board member in their company, please make sure that that company has director's liability cover. Please. Before you find yourself in problems.
Hot soup.
Hot soup. When that company is being sued for one reason or another, and you as a director of that company, you're also in trouble financially because you were part of maybe the decision makers. Maybe you didn't even know that decision that was being made. But with the director's liability cover, at least it will be able to cover you from some of the mistakes that the company would make, especially if they were not deliberate mistakes. But if there are deliberate mistakes like tax evasion, my friends, you shall deal with the long arm of the law.
Of KRA.
Yeah.
Of KRA. There's something in the law, though, that for companies, directors are not supposed to be held personally liable for a lot of the decisions that are made as a convergence on behalf of a company. But is that really what is usually applied, though? Are you so sure that KRA will not personally come for you? Are you sure that they'll not find a loophole to come in and...
There are times when companies have been fined by regulators and the directors have been warned or barred from being directors of any other company that is within that sector for probably misrepresentation of some documents or the financial standing of a company. So you might not be fined personally, but you may be prevented from being a board member of a similar company in future. Yeah. So it's not that as a director you just go put your name in a company and you're okay, yeah, whatever they do, that's their problem.
That's what most of you guys do. And I'm like, so generally, since a company and its directors are a separate legal entity, there should be no personal liability that attaches to a director. But there are situations, like you're saying, in terms of misrepresentation, in terms of a director breaching their duties to the company. And one of this, the one that comes top of my head, is a company has been declared insolvent, but you are still allowing the company to trade or do business or probably enter into debt. Then if they enter into a debt as a director or as a directors, you can be held personally liable. Generally, we say in the law, they're not supposed to be held liable for the tradings and issues of a company, but there are some few exceptions where as a director, again, in case of criminal activity and breach of your duties, then you will be held personally liable.
Yeah. That's good to know. Thank you. I think as we gear to wrap up this episode, it's good to note that there are regulations that would help you understand how to disclose beneficial ownership. There's the company's beneficial ownership information regulations of 2020, which were amended in 2023. Those just give a guideline on beneficial ownership. And then there's also a guide on disclosure of beneficial ownership. So this guide basically covers who is a beneficial owner, what are the potential risks that you may face if you do not properly vet your beneficial owners. Then also, it also helps you look at how to disclose, the process of how to disclose your beneficial owners to BRS, how to obtain beneficial owner information, and verifying the information of beneficial owners. So all this is important for you to learn. And of course, with any regulation, there will be what are the sanctions and the penalties that come with non-compliance.
I saw, like, when I was doing research for this topic, I saw a very big headline on one of the dailies that companies risk deregistration and deletion because of non-declaration of beneficial ownership. That's such a fancy title. Anyway, so, and the question maybe we should ask ourselves is, how then will I get deleted or deregistered or struck off the register of companies if I do not file my beneficial ownership information? So when I was going through the Companies Act, I didn't find anything really substantive on it. But I know from my company law notes from 500 years ago that the deregistration of a company can be from my own volition, as maybe our own volition as the owners of the company, or it can be initiated by the Registrar of Companies or done by a court order. So the way I looked at this is there's non-compliance, and therefore there will be a notice that will be sent to you as the directors and shareholders of the company to tell you, hey, look, you're supposed to put up your register of beneficial owners within the next 30 days. If not, we have the intention to deregister you or to strike you off the list of companies. Then there's the dance. You either comply or you do not comply. If you do not comply, then after 30 days, there will be a gazettement. So they'll gazette the intent to deregister you. If you do not, again, say anything, you get struck off, and after the striking off, there's a publishing of a gazette notice saying Ndanu Company Limited has been struck off the roll of companies or has been deregistered. So I do believe that is the same process that you will go through. You'll not just wake up one day and find that your company has been deregistered. There will be a notice of intention sent, there will be a public gazettement, there will be the deregistration, and then another gazettement to kind of say you have been deregistered or been removed from the register of companies.
I think also something that can help in terms of compliance, filing the current or most updated list of beneficial owners with the business registration service is ensure that you do your annual returns for your company. So if there are any changes that year, if you change any director, if you change any member, if you change any shareholders, if you change anything to do with your company, the best time to actually update is during your annual filings. That helps you to maintain compliance with the BRS. Yeah. And of course, if you're having any challenges with this, remember, you have a resident.
And a compliance specialist.
Well, so you can DM us and we will send you to someone who can be able to help you with the ensuring that you're compliant with the beneficial ownership of your company and to ensure that you're not delisted.
Or deregistered.
Or deregistered. Yeah, you don't want to be deregistered. I think a lot of companies really are at risk of being deregistered.
Did you watch that video by Anne? I think she's one of the BRS officials. I can't remember her name properly. But she was saying that when the regulation came out and like there was the car window, you register within this number of days, hundreds of thousands registered because they didn't want to be fined the 500K.
Yes.
Like in Kenya compliance, kwanza hii yenye umeambiwa 30th of November, 28th, BRS is not going to be working.
The portal will be down.
The portal will be down.
So you'd better do it early, by the way. Yeah, you'd better do it early before the portal goes down. Yeah. So I think we have covered, if you have any questions on this topic, or if you have any questions in our future episodes, we shall be covering anti-money laundering regulations in Kenya. So feel free to ask in the comment sections or DM us.
She said shall. Mandatory. Anyway, you know what I mean? She said shall. So we shall be covering that. Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for watching our videos. Thank you for tuning in. We do not take your support for granted. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's just here. Subscribe there. And then follow us on Spotify. Listen to us on Apple Podcast. Follow us on Instagram. We post snippets there. Follow us on our personal pages. My handle on LinkedIn, TikTok, Facebook, X, and Instagram is Mihala_Barasa. And you?
Ndanunziuko on the various platforms.
She says various, but there are some platforms there that I do not see her.
Where?
TikTok pona post ngapi? Is it like a single post?
Niko na 3 posts.
One post.
Niko na 3 posts.
From 5 years ago.
Oh my God.
From before Baba Charlene was the president.
No, it is a juicy. Okay. Nime improve. X ndio imenishinda. Guys, if you know someone who can help me with X, please.
Plug them. Plug them down here. But thank you so much for watching. And until we see you guys next time. Bye.